Hello and welcome to Mindfulness Matters. This is a 6-week online demand program helping you to become more productive in the workplace and beyond. My name is Lily Parkinson and I will be guiding you through the next 6 sessions, and we'll be talking about mindfulness and going through a couple of different practices. So what we will be looking at today is what is mindfulness. We'll run through a couple of different definitions. We'll be looking at how mindfulness can help you in the workplace and at home. We will look at what mindfulness looks like in our day-to-day lives and what being non-mindful also looks like. I'll be taking you through a short guided practice and I'll be giving you a little practice to take away with you today. So let's introduce me. My name is Lily Parkinson. I'm founder of my company Umiani, where I'm an integrative and holistic coach and registered nutritional therapy. I have a diploma and I'm a practitioner in neuro-linguistic programming, cognitive behavioral therapy and emotional freedom technique, and I am also a Reiki practitioner. So what is mindfulness? Now, I've provided you a couple of different definitions of what mindfulness is, and we'll go through those now. So mindfulness is said to be the practice of maintaining a non-judgmental state of heightened or complete awareness of one's thoughts, emotions, or experiences on a moment-to-moment basis. It's the basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we are doing, and being not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's going on around us. And a moment-to-moment awareness of one's experience without judgment. And it can be said to be a state rather than a trait. So in a nutshell, mindfulness is a moment-to-moment awareness. It's the full awareness of our thoughts, our emotions, and our experience. It's having these and not becoming overly attached to them, not being judgmental of them, not being overreactive or for them to cause us any overwhelm. And most of all, mindfulness is a practice, and it's a really simple one, but we just have to remember to practice it. So what does mindfulness look like in our day-to-day lives? So when we are mindful, we are able to fully tune into our sense perceptions. And what I mean by sense perceptions are the environment that is around us, is being aware of that environment and what's going on around us, and the thoughts, emotions, and experiences that are happening for us on a moment-to-moment basis based on those sense perceptions and how that affects our experience. So with sense perceptions, as I said, it's being fully aware of what's going on in the environment around us. Are you really noticing the things around you? Or rather, are you not aware of what's happening around you? Are you walking along the street and you are maybe on the phone, or you're having a conversation and you can kind of see that there's something going on in the background, but you're not fully aware of it? I don't know about you, but as I'm filming this, I'm still in lockdown, as I'm sure everyone else is. And there's been a lot of chatter in the past weeks about how everyone's noticing nature a little bit more, and everyone's saying it's much more beautiful than they ever remember. But what it really is the fact that we're just becoming more aware of it. We have slowed down. Perhaps we're spending more time in nature, and we're looking around and we're noticing things that we've never noticed before. And it's not necessarily that they've changed or they've got better. It's just that we've become more aware of it. They've become more visible in our experience and our perception. So, and in reference to our thoughts and emotions, thoughts go through our mind all the time. Now, there's a big difference between thoughts going through the mind and being aware of those thoughts going through the mind. As humans, we have between 60,000 and 80,000 thoughts per day. So if we took the benchmark of 70,000, that equates to 3,000 thoughts per hour. 500 per minute and just under 1 per second. Now that's quite a significant amount of thoughts to be dealing with in one day, in one minute, 1 hour even. And this is kind of how we get caught up in our thoughts. We get lost in our thoughts. Sometimes we feel overwhelmed because there's just so many thoughts happening all at once. So when we do not have awareness, then there is only the movement of our thoughts. Okay? So we are only aware of a specific number of thoughts, and our experience, how we experience the present moment or any moment in time, is based on our thoughts and which thoughts that we're aware of. So we're only using a small fraction of our thoughts, and we're also only probably using a small fraction of our sense perceptions. And how we process and react to things is obviously, as I said, is based on these thoughts, and perhaps they're based on thoughts that we have from the past, and those thoughts have formed a belief or created a story that we've been telling ourselves, a narrative that we base situations off. So not every moment we have is ever going to be the same. Lots of each moment in our day will never be the same as the one before. Each situation that we encounter, even if we think it's the same, is never going to be completely the same as we've experienced it before. And so by practicing mindfulness, we're able to listen to the cues that are being presented in that moment so that we can react to that particular event with the cues that are available to us at that moment, not using the information or the thoughts that are associated with a similar event that's happened perhaps in the past. And so just kind of something to think about is how many of these thoughts that you are aware of that come into awareness, these 70,000 thoughts a day, how many do you think are based on the past, or they are thoughts about the future? How many of these past or future thoughts are informing our actions, behaviors, and judgments in the present? We might not actually be aware that they are, but it's just something to have a little think about and try and discover where maybe these thoughts are informing or changing our perceptions and behaviors about a particular event or situation. How many of these thoughts that we have do we believe to be true? It might come to a shock to some people, but actually not everything that we think or that we tell ourselves isn't necessarily true. And once we understand that concept, it can be a real relief to us sometimes. So when you next get a moment after the session's finished, just have a think and be aware of what thoughts are coming into your perception, and asking, is that true? Is that about the past? Is that about the future? And these are topics that we'll explore over the next couple of sessions, but I just want to give you a kind of introduction to start thinking about. And so the practice of mindfulness is we're aiming to change our experience. We are aiming to change our experience to living in the present moment, not living in the past or in the future. So if our thoughts that we're having are based out of the present moment, then, as I said before, we are unable to fully process, and we're not fully aware of what's happening in the here and now and what's right in front of you. We tend to create this narrative based on these thoughts without conscious awareness, and we identify with a particular stream of thinking that is reactive. And this is going to affect us in our functioning and productivity in each moment. So non-attachment to thoughts and emotions. So this is becoming aware of a thought or emotion and being accepting or in approval that you're having this thought or emotion or even experience. Now the concept of being in approval can be quite difficult, so we can start by accepting. So that can be you have had a thought pop into your head, you are experiencing a particular emotion, and we need to try and get to a place where we are accepting that that is the thought that we're having, that is the experience that we're having, that is the emotion that we're having. A lot of the time we don't want to experience particular thoughts or emotions and we push them to the side. But being mindful is being in approval and being in acceptance that we're having that emotion, and then we let it go. We don't get caught up on it. We don't get angry, or we don't get frustrated or upset that we are thinking or reacting or having a particular emotion to something. We just let it go. And again, that is a practice. It doesn't come that easily, particularly with specific thoughts or emotions. And this will help us kind of get out of the trap of being fixated on a particular thought, which might take us on a tangent, thinking about different things, playing out different scenarios in our mind, worrying about what that means for us in the future. How can we change it? Because as we do this, we end up in a cascade of thoughts and worry. And by the time we actually get to that event in the future, a lot of the time it is not as bad as we played it out to be in our minds originally. Then there's the practice of gratitude. Now, if there's one thing that you take away from this series of 6 videos that you'll be watching over the next 6 weeks, is please try and start a practice of gratitude. Now, you can start by being grateful for some really small things that perhaps you take for granted. So it could be that you have clean drinking water today, that you have a roof over your head, that you have your health, you have a job to go to, that you have a family. These are all things that we take for granted. And once we shift our perception by getting into gratitude, not only does it bring us into the present moment because we're thinking about what we have right now, it ends up shifting us out of a lack mentality. And this lack mentality is what we've been conditioned to have for many, many years. And it's that mentality that we want that new car, we want that new house, we want that new piece of clothing. How do I get that? What do I need to do to get that? And then we start thinking of all these things that we need to do, and we are missing what's going on right in front of us. We are not being aware, and we're not being grateful for what we have right now. And perhaps in this pandemic, I know I have for certain, I have become so much more aware and so much more grateful for everything that I do have, for having my health, for having a safe space to be in lockdown during these past 2 months, whereas there's many people out there that don't have that ability, that are in danger. So shifting our awareness out of a lack mentality and coming into gratitude is a really, really, really powerful practice. So I really recommend everyone carries that out. And also there have been some studies in America on what practicing gratitude can do for our minds. There's a mindfulness research center run by UCLA in the States, and they've done a couple of studies that's shown that gratitude can change the molecular structure of our brain by keeping the grey matter functioning. And this leads to feeling more peace, more joy, and this changes the structure and the functioning of our central nervous system, which governs pretty much every process that we have in the body. So when this changes is working in our favor, then we are able to access that joy, we are able to access that peace, we become more resilient. And it also changes our magnetic field. Now, humans are bioenergetic. The world we live in is an energetic field. The world, the Earth has a north and a south pole. And taking back to science lessons, we are all atoms of energy bouncing off tiny little atoms that bounce off of each other and create matter. So it's the same for a table, and it's what makes up human bodies. So we are this active, energetic body that obviously we don't see. We just see our skin, we feel our arms, we feel our hair, and we'll come on to that into session 2 about how we get into our bodies. But that's just to give you an idea of how being in gratitude can change our frequency. And so also there's being in the here and now, which all of these points kind of touch on. But being in the here and now is having complete awareness of what we're doing, where we are. We're not distracted. We're giving our full attention to the tasks that we're doing, perhaps the conversation that we're having. Have a think back to when was the last time you really gave your full attention to something, or fully engaged in a conversation with someone where you weren't distracted by what was happening in the background, or you weren't talking on your phone to someone else, or messaging, or driving, or doing something. When you're doing these multiple tasks, you're not giving your full attention to any of the tasks that you're trying to do at any given time. So now we've had a couple of examples of what mindfulness looks like in our day-to-day lives and in practice. Here are some common examples of where we are non-mindful. So a typical one is when we experience constant chatter in our minds, and this is kind of the ongoing narrative and the stories that we're having. It could be you're talking to yourself about what you're going to do after work, or about what it would look like if you bought those new shoes. Or it could be something a bit more negative. This is where the term inner critic comes from. And I don't believe anyone who doesn't say that they don't talk to themselves. They might not think that they are, but all these thoughts are generally you having a conversation with yourself, whether you're conscious of it or not. Thinking about the past or future. So this can include kind of cascading thoughts about something that's happened in the past, and this is informing your decisions and your actions in the current moment. Or it could be something's happening and you start thinking about how it's going to affect you in the future. And we can get stuck in this kind of cycle of thinking something, and it takes us off on a complete tangent, and then we end up in a state of worry or panic, or what am I going to do? But this event might not even take place, or it might take place in 5 years, but we get stuck in this mode of thinking, and it completely takes us out of the present moment and of our body. Being distracted by specific thoughts. So this is similar, but it doesn't necessarily have to be related to the past or the future. It can just be you've noticed something and you get caught up on that and you lose focus on what you're doing. Being distracted by external stimuli. So again, this could be when you're talking to your friend or you're driving and you're seeing something out the corner of your eye and you become disengaged with what you were originally doing, and you lose your trail of thought of thinking. You forget what you're doing, and you're not fully taking in that information that you need to be processing. And this brings us on to doing something automatically or without thinking or without even realizing, or you're forgetting what you're doing. I've definitely had times where I've gone to do something, or I'm looking for something, and then I'm thinking, what am I looking for? I've totally forgotten what I was originally looking for. Or I'm walking somewhere and I'm on the phone and I've missed the turning and I've ended up somewhere, and how did I get here? It's happened to all of us. So when we're being mindful and we're being aware of what we're doing, then we can minimize these situations. And being overreactive or overwhelmed at something. This is normally associated when we are thinking in the past or the future, and we are relating it to what's being presented to us right now, and so we might feel overwhelmed because we are thinking about how it's going to affect us in the future and not actually taking note of what it means for us right now. And as I said before, when we get into the present moment, then we might actually realize that it's not as bad as we first thought, and we can come back to this inner calm and peace and clarity. And rather than being reactive, we can be more gentle. We can make more calculated responses on how we act and how we behave, and the emotions and thoughts that are coming up. So engaging in multiple activities. So we might be eating our lunch, sending an email, messaging our friend, and a couple of other things perhaps at the same time, and we're not giving our full attention to any of those tasks. So you might not have even realized that you've eaten your whole plate in 5 minutes. You might have made some spelling mistakes in your email to your boss, and you've hit the email, and you're kind of going, oh, what did I write in there? I forgot to add this. Or you might have sounded completely unprofessional because you haven't been giving your full attention or awareness to it. And absent thinking or daydreaming, and again, we're all guilty of this, staring out of the office window on a hot summer's day, wishing we were outside, and we get distracted from the task we were doing. Maybe we stop it, maybe we're there for 10 minutes, maybe we're there for half an hour, someone's been trying to talk to you and you've missed what they're saying. So yeah, there's just a few examples of where we are non-mindful. So bearing all of this in mind, how is mindfulness going to help you at work? So it can help us in decreasing our stress levels and anxiety. It can increase our concentration levels. It can improve our memory, our multitasking, our decision making, our problem solving. We are able to have higher engagement and fulfillment in the tasks and activities that we're carrying out. And ultimately, this is going to improve our productivity, our creativity, and therefore reduce the likelihood of burnout. Now, this is all going to have a really positive effect in our home life because we spend a lot of the time at work, either by the computer, or we might be traveling to work, or we might have brought that work home. We might have emails to send. We might be thinking about something we need to do tomorrow, or worrying about something that happened during in the day. So it's always on our mind. And vice versa. If we're practicing mindfulness at home, it can have positive effects for us in the workplace. So some benefits of mindfulness at home is decreased stress levels, increased ability to relax and shut off, improved sleep quality, increased positive thoughts and emotions. It can improve our creativity and interest in different activities or sports or hobbies that we might have, increase our emotional intelligence, and increase our communication abilities. So they sound pretty good to me. And the best part is that the mindfulness is just a really simple practice. We just have to remember to do it. So now I'm going to take you through a very simple guided practice, which I call the simple breath. Now, as adults, as we rest or at resting state, we have between 17,000 and 23,000 breaths per day, which works out at about 12 to 16 breaths per minute. A lot of these breaths, we're completely unconscious that we're breathing. We don't know how we're breathing. We don't know how it feels to breathe. We don't really know that we're doing it. It just happens. But at the same time, a lot of the time we stop breathing, maybe when we're concentrating, or maybe when we've had a confrontation. Maybe we are breathing more rapidly or breathing less, or maybe we've stopped our breathing altogether. Now that is a different discussion, but the breath controls the homeostasis in the body. It controls the chemical reactions that we have in our body, and it controls the functioning of our bodies. So it's really important to breathe and to breathe properly. So let's go into this guided practice. If you could all find a comfortable seat, and with your feet planted on the floor and your hands rested lightly in your lap, you can bring your eyes to closed, or you can keep them open, whatever feels most comfortable to you. I normally suggest that you shut them down, that you close your eyelids. And this just helps us kind of cultivate a little bit more concentration. And you can breathe through your nose or through your mouth through this practice, whatever feels most comfortable to you. But to start with, we're just going to take 3 deep inhales in through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. So once you've taken these 3 breaths, if you are intending to close your eyes down, close them down now. Sitting comfortably, sitting tall in your chair. I just want you to notice and become aware of the fact that you are breathing. Notice how your chest rises and falls as you breathe. Notice that formation of your breath. The chest rising and falling as you inhale and as you exhale. Perhaps the rise and fall of the abdomen. Perhaps you can notice other parts of your body moving with the rhythm of your breath. Perhaps you can notice how when you breathe in, there is cooler air that passes on your lips or around your nose, and how as you exhale, the air is slightly warmer. And just still keeping attention to the fact that you are breathing without thinking about the fact that you're breathing, without forcing yourself to breathe. It's just happening without any conscious awareness. And so as we focus on the breath, we don't need to change the speed or the depth of our breath, but if it does, know that that's completely okay. But just following the natural rhythm of your breath in this present moment. And as you are aware of your breath, see if you can notice the small pauses, the small parts of space that exist between the inhale and the exhale. You're not stopping your breath there, it's just an automatic small gap. Stillness. So I just want you to bring a sense of curiosity and gentleness to your attention as you breathe. Be curious of the breath as it enters and leaves the body. And if your mind starts wandering, that's fine, that's okay, that's completely normal. That is mindfulness. As soon as we are aware of the fact that our mind is wandering, it means that we are aware of our thoughts. And that brings us back into the present moment. And this is likely to keep continuing to happen, and every time it does, just come back to the breath. Follow the breath. If you're finding it difficult, sometimes you can whisper or say silently the words inhale and exhale, or you can count the numbers 1 or 2 to help you follow the breath a little bit easier. And if any of these thoughts are coming into your awareness, then just want you to practice letting them go. So if a thought or emotion does arise, label it as just a thought or an emotion and let it go. Because right now we are becoming aware of our breath in this moment. maybe getting into approval or acceptance that you are having that thought or emotion. You might be feeling bored. You might be feeling like you don't want to be here. And that's fine. You can be in approval of that. But don't let it take your attention away from the practice of following the breath. Perhaps if there is a particular emotion that's arising, maybe you can feel your breath shortening or lengthening, and just be aware of it. But don't try and change it. Just let it be. Let it come and go as it feels. How does it feel to be breathing? What does it feel like to be able to breathe? What does it feel like in your body when your body's expanding and contracting with every inhale and exhale? Awareness is also being curious about what's happening, questioning everything, experiencing it as if you have never experienced it before, because each moment is different to the next. No two moments are ever the same. And so just keep breathing, and as we draw the guided practice to a close, I just wanted to let you know that this is a practice that you can take anywhere with you. You can practice it as you make a cup of tea, as you lie in bed before you go to sleep, or as you're brushing your teeth. You need 1 to 2 minutes to be able to practice it, and it's really interesting to practice it at different times of the day to find out where you are in your body, in your breath. Perhaps in some parts of the day it's going to be more rapid than it is at other times of the day. Perhaps if you have just come off of a heated phone call, then it's going to be more rapid or shorter, or there's going to be less expansion in the chest area and the abdomen. So it's a really good guide to see where we are at any given point of the day. And so if you have your eyes closed, gently bring them open, blink them open, and come back into the room. Join me. So I hope that you found that breath exercise useful and you have learned something new today. Thank you for joining me in this session, and I hope you'll be joining me for the further 5 sessions over the course of the coming weeks. We'll be diving into different practices and different concepts of how we can practice mindfulness and what mindfulness feels like, and how to live being mindful and how it can help us. So I'm just going to leave you with my contact details, and please feel free to reach out if you want to discuss anything that we've gone through today, or perhaps you want to discuss some other aspect of any of the other work I do. And I hope to see you soon. Thank you.